Good morning, guys. My name is Shiven. I am a second year law student from WIPS IP Delhi and an intern at LEXIS and Company. So, today I'll be talking about the topic grounds of divorce. So, what is a divorce? Divorce is basically the termination of the relationship between the two spouses. So, what are the grounds for divorce? The first ground is adultery. While adultery may not have been recognized as a criminal offence in all countries, the matrimonial offence of adultery or the fault of ground of adultery is recognized in most. Even under the Shastric Hindu law, where divorce had not been recognized, adultery was condemned in most of the terms. There is no clear definition of the matrimonial offence of adultery, but adultery is basically be voluntary or consensual sex intercourse between a married person and another, whether the married or unmarried of opposite sex, not being the other's spouse, during the subsistence of marriage. Thus, intercourse with the former or latter wife of a polygamous marriage is not an adultery, but if the second marriage is void, then sexual intercourse with the second wife will amount to adultery. In Swapna Ghosh versus Sadanand Ghosh, the wife found her husband and the adulteress to be lying in the same bed at night, and further evidence which was recorded of the neighbors that the husband was living with the adulteress as husband and wife is sufficient evidence of adultery. The fact of matter is that direct proof of adultery is very rare. The offence of adultery may be proved by very few things. First is circumstantial evidence, like in the case of Swapna Ghosh versus Sadanand Ghosh. Second is contracting venereal disease. So, second ground of divorce is cruelty. The concept of cruelty is a changing concept. The modern concept of cruelty includes both mental and physical cruelty. Acts of cruelty are behavioral manifestations stimulated by different factors in the life of spouses and their surroundings, and therefore each case has to be decided on the basis of its own facts. While physical cruelty is easy to determine, it is difficult to say that what mental cruelty consists of. Perhaps mental cruelty is lack of such conjugal kindness which inflicts the pain of such a degree and duration that affects the health, mental or bodily health, affects the mental capacity, health or bodily injury to the spouse to whom it is inflicted upon. Some instances of cruelty are as follows: false accusations of adultery or unchastity, the demand of dowry, refusal to have marital intercourse or children, nagging for impotency, birth of a child, drunkenness, the threat to commit suicide, wives writing false complaint to employers of the husband, incompatibility of temperament, cruelty leading to irretrievable breakdown of marriage. What does not amount to cruelty is ordinary wear and tear of married life, wife's refusal to resign her job, desertion, outbursts of temper without rancor. So the third ground of divorce is desertion. Desertion means the rejection by one party of all the obligations of marriage, the permanent forsaking or abandonment of one spouse by the other without any reasonable cause and without the consent of the other. It means a total repudiation of marital obligations. The following five conditions must be present to constitute desertion. So first is fact of separation, animus decidendi, that is intention to desert, desertion without any reasonable cause, desertion without any consent of the parties. The statutory period of 2 years must have to run out before a petition is presented. So the other ground of divorce is conversion. When the other party has ceased to be Hindu by conversion to any other religion, for example Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, it is a valid ground for divorce. So let me just clear the things out. Grounds of divorce, I am talking about the grounds of divorce in Hindu Marriage Act. The other ground of divorce is insanity. Insanity as a ground of divorce has following two requirements. The respondent has been incurably of unsound mind. Second, the respondent has been suffering continuously or intermittently from mental disorder of such a kind and to such an extent that a petitioner cannot reasonably be expected to live with the respondent. So the other ground for divorce is venereal diseases. At present, it is a ground for divorce if it is communicable by nature of irrespective of the period for which the respondent has been suffering from it. The ground is made out. If it is shown that the disease is communicable form and it is not necessary that it should have been communicated to the petitioner if done innocently. The other ground for divorce is renunciation. Renunciation basically means renunciation in the world. Like, it is a ground for divorce only under Hindu law. As the mention, as the renunciation of the world is a typical Hindu notion. Modern codified Hindu law lays down that a spouse may seek divorce if the other party has renounced the world and has entered a holy order. Basically, जिसे बोलते हैं त्याग देना सारा मोह माया. The other ground for divorce is presumption of death. Under the Act, a person is presumed to be dead if he/she has not been heard as being alive for a period of at least 7 years. The burden of proof that the whereabouts of the respondent is not known for the requisite period is on the petitioner under all the matrimonial laws. A decree of divorce granted under this clause is valid and effective even if it subsequently transpires that the respondent was in fact alive at the time of when decree was passed. The other ground for divorce is impotency, which is like it depends on case to case. Like if the spouse is not able to produce child with the other spouse, then the other spouse can seek for divorce. So I'd like to in my viewpoint, I'd like to conclude by saying that the Hindus consider marriage to be a sacred bond. Prior to the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, there was no provision for divorce. The concept of getting divorced was too radical for the Indian society. The wives were the silent victims of such a rigid system. However, the time has changed. Situations have changed. The social ladder has turned. Now the law provides a way out to get out of an unpleasant marriage by seeking a divorce in a court of law. Thank you.